new leaders need to find various levels of creativity to solve old and as well as new problems, because that's what we're facing right now, because our problems are just not national anymore, our problems are also regional and global, and the way you respond to problems make a big difference. And the way Jamie has sort of talked about Obama campaign and how Obama has responded to various changes and how the whole of America responded to Obama. I'd like to probably first, I know that Jacqueline and Surin has gone through a lot of campaigns and covered a lot of elections, especially the general elections. She even put up a photo on the general elections in March, as well as she's gone as a journalist. She's observed the way our leaders have responded, as well as how Malaysians themselves have responded to all the changes, not just elections, but all sorts of things that goes on in our country, as well as changes in the region and globally. So I'd like to maybe open a question to, or get Jacqueline to start on what have you observed about the way Malaysians have responded to change, and what are your comments and about how you think America has responded to change, especially with the Obama administration?
Maybe I'd like to narrow down the question to what are some of the changes that I've seen happen in election campaigns. And I remember very distinctly, there was a point during the Egypt by-election that I had gone to check out, where I suddenly found myself actually liking Anwar Ibrahim. And that came as quite a shock to me, because I covered Anwar Ibrahim for many, many years while he was finance minister and deputy prime minister. And many of the local media will tell you that he's not a very nice person, especially not to the local media. But when I was in Egypt and he was campaigning in Egypt, he spoke a language of inclusion that was really very attractive. And I have to say that at that point in time, I was like, wow, I could vote for this man. And I hated myself for it, of course, at that point. And if I did, I would probably still hate myself today. But I just wanted to use that as an example to talk about how the political landscape in Malaysia definitely has changed. And that is somehow reflected in the rhetoric that's being used by politicians. And I think that in some ways that was what was happening in the US as well, that Obama's rhetoric was one of inclusion. It provided a different kind of landscape for Americans to believe in. And I suspect that Pakatan Rakyat itself is trying to grapple with that kind of new landscape and the kind of rhetoric that they can use to capture people's imaginations. Having said that, whether or not the people who spout this new rhetoric are able to follow through on that rhetoric is another question altogether. And so I think we have observed that there is
no one is allowed to choke.
You're allowed to choke after I'm finished. Whether or not they're able to fulfill the promises that they make, and I think this is true even of Obama's administration. I think people put him up on a very high pedestal, but what that also means is that people's hopes are very high. And the minute he starts not fulfilling his promises, he's going to come falling down very, very quickly. In the same way, we have those kinds of expectations of the new Prime Minister when he comes and he presents One Malaysia and he talks about releasing ISA detainees, but then in a couple of weeks then he detains some others under the ISA. So it's all those kinds of things. It's about whether or not you walk the talk, really. In many ways, I think it's not enough for either Pakatan Rakyat or the Barisan Nasional to spout new rhetoric, even though I think that's an important start to letting people imagine new political landscapes and possibilities. I think it's also very, very incumbent on leaders, whether you're in politics or outside of politics, to make sure that that rhetoric is realized in some kind of credible, solid form.